Welcome to another episode of the Minnesota Meatloaf Podcast. How's it going, Matt?
Good. How are you today, Aaron?
I'm doing well.
That's good. Got some
Yeah.
nice weather finally. I called it on the snow in March. I predicted it.
Yep, you did. I don't know how many feet we got exactly. I can't remember the total, but it was a lot of snow.
Yeah, it was over a foot.
Yeah,
And then
and
like
now,
3 days later, it was nice.
yep, it was all gone and rainy and weird. It's a weird winter. So,
Yep.
so have you been playing anything or watching anything?
I haven't really been playing anything lately. I finished watching all of season 1 of Iron Fist, and then I
Hmm.
started watching the next in the timeline after that is The Defenders, which is an 8 episode limited series, which is Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist all together. And they're fighting Elektra, who's been brought back from the dead as evil. And it's actually really good. I like it a
Oh,
lot.
cool.
I thought the Punisher was supposed to be in it, but it turns out he's not. So
Isn't
anyway,
he? Oh,
nope. But then season 1 of the Punisher apparently is right after this, so that's next on my list to watch.
okay, awesome. And that's cool because like on the website, on the Disney Plus website, don't they have it everything in like a timeline so you
Yep,
can, yeah, that's nice. Otherwise, how the hell would you know?
right.
I
Exact.
wouldn't.
They do that for both Marvel and Star Wars, and honestly, that's the only
Sure.
reason I'm watching either of them is because without for that, I was so confused and so lost. I didn't, and now that they have them both in timeline order, it's like, oh, okay, I can start at the beginning and and
Yeah.
get the actual story in chronological order.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so smart that they did that.
Yeah. And then Marvel's coming out. It's called Daredevil Born Again, which is basically sounds like it's going to be another season of Daredevil. Like they're bringing back all the same actors and
Oh,
Punisher
awesome.
is going to be in it again. And
Sweet. Yep.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
should be a good.
started season three of Daredevil. I've only watched like the first or second episode of it. So I gotta start that
Mm,
again.
yeah. I really like Daredevil, but sometimes when they're like, when it's Foggy and Karen and him and they're getting into all their personal lives and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, shut up.
Oh, I know. It's like, who cares? Let's get back to the fighting.
Where's the Punisher? Someone find the Punisher and have him go crazy.
I absolutely love Punisher in
I do
the
too.
Marvel universe now. It's so awesome. You're gonna really like the series, I think. So
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I had to quit playing the Messenger. Remember I was talking about
Oh
that?
yeah.
And because I don't know, I'm a trophy hunter, and it's
Yeah.
so frustrating when you come across a trophy that you miss. And
Mm.
I played that game for like over a week, and I got to a part where I missed a trophy, and the only other way to get it is if I go back and play through the game again and try to get it, or if I would have had a save on the cloud and then
Hmm.
re-downloaded it, which I didn't. So I just thought, ah, the heck with it. So I'm done with that game now. And then I started playing Gotham Knights.
Oh, that
That
looks
is
really cool.
really, yeah, that's really fun. Apparently, Batman's dead, and now you're Robin and Nightwing and Red Hood and Batgirl. You can choose between the four, and it's
Oh, cool.
basically like a Batman game. It's so fun.
Nice.
No missable trophies. So,
That's what I was just gonna say. I hate missable trophies. Whoever
yep.
invented missable trophies should be beaten severely about the face, chest, breast, neck, and head.
Oh, I agree. And you know where the game doesn't take place at?
Gotham.
Nope. Roy Wilkins Auditorium. There's only one thing that's ever taken place there.
I didn't see that coming. You button hooked me.
Yep. So one thing I discovered, and I shared it with you earlier this week, was a site called Whatnot.
Oh yeah.
And and it's so crazy because I don't even remember how I came across it. And it must have just popped up on something. And it's an auction site of like people selling cards and movies and all kinds of things. And they do giveaways. And I don't know, I'm just kind of addicted to it now.
and
It's
it's
kind of
and it's like
amusing.
it's like live auctions too. Like you
Yeah.
watch people because I was watching a GI Joe one, and it was like he had like a little turntable that was slowly spinning, and he would set
Yep.
out the figure and all the accessories, and it'd be like this is yada yada, 100% complete, and it would
Yep.
spin around, and bids would come in, and it would end, and boom, it was
Yep.
done, and he'd set out the next one, and I watched probably 10 figures go by in a half hour. It seemed like.
Yeah, and it's cool to see all that stuff, and it's like quick auctions, and I think they can set the time for it, like 10 seconds or 15 seconds. And
Hmm.
then and then I was thinking, well, how do they make money? Because like I
Yeah.
watched a VHS one and the guy was selling tapes for like $1, $3, but the buyer pays for shipping and handling.
Okay.
So, and I'm sure Whatnot gets a percentage of all the sales too. So I don't know what that percentage is, but it's kind of a cool little thing that I've been watching a lot. I haven't
Yeah.
been on anything. I actually won a pack of Pokemon cards because some of them were doing giveaways,
Oh, nice.
and so you randomly enter it, and then I won a pack of Pokemon cards that they're gonna send. And the site, and I when I was watching it, I heard them say that they were in Minnesota, so I had to ask them. I said, I messaged them. I said, Are you in Minnesota?" And they're in Foley.
Oh, weird.
They have a store, but this page that I'm watching, or this page, the site or whatever, this Whatnot
Hmm.
channel or whatever, I guess you call it, channel, is they're on all the time. I don't know if they sleep or shut down, but they're constantly selling Pokemon cards and just making tons of money. It's pretty cool.
Huh. Yeah, and like I've been getting, so like with the last few years, eBay is just, they jack up all the fees and they're just getting
Yeah,
more and more frustrating and more rigmarole. So it's like any kind of alternative to eBay is kind of welcome in this day and age, in my opinion.
yeah, yep, I
And it's
agree.
just fun to watch. So you get
It
that
is.
auction, you get that sort of buzz from the ooh, like it's going
Yep,
up.
yep. you know, and then with like if somebody buys a pack or wins a pack in the auction, they can rip it or ship it. So
Oh,
everybody's like, rip
nice.
it, rip it, rip it. So and then they open it right there, and it's kind of exciting. It's fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of card games, our topic today, we're going to talk not a top three, but just tell some stories about some of the card games, collectible card games, I should
Yep.
say, um, that aren't Magic the Gathering that we've played over the years. Because we already did an episode on Magic the Gathering, and we could
Yep.
probably talk for a good 8 hours about that alone. But there's
Yeah.
also been a few other games we've played, some of them quite a bit in our time. And so we wanted to
Hmm.
talk a little bit about those.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if we need to take turns, but we could just maybe bring one up and talk about it. Like,
Sure.
so I guess after Magic, the first collectible card game that I was aware of that came out was also by the same designer, Richard Garfield, and it was a game that would eventually be called Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, but it was
Yep.
originally called Jihad,
Yep.
which they picked that name. It's spelled with a Y instead of an I, which Jihad is refers to in the Vampire the Masquerade role playing game, is the term they use to describe the war between the vampires. But it also
Hmm.
in real life refers to like Muslims in a holy war and some
Yeah.
things that aren't really you want your game to be associated with. So they changed the name to Vampire, and no one knew what the hell it was about, because who the hell knows what Jihad is about, and it's vampires. So they made it Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. And when they did that, they had a big event called Vampire Night, which we camped out in the yard, which I think
Yep.
we talked about on a previous
We did
episode.
unforgettable night. That was awesome.
Yeah. And then we got our newly branded Vampire: The Eternal Struggle cards. And it was really hard to get into at first, because I think we were always, it took a while for us to wrap our head around the idea that this was a game that's different than Magic. Like we just were
Yeah.
expecting Magic with vampires, and it's
Yep.
not. It was a completely different game with different mechanics and different rules. And there's voting cards, which confused the hell out of us forever, and
Yep.
all kinds of
And I
stuff.
think the instructions were kind of confusing too, if I remember
They
right. It took a while for you to figure them out, and then they came out with a book, didn't they?
Now that you mention it, the instructions were really confusing, and then they came out with like a strategy guide, and I
Yeah.
read that, and then after I read that, I kind of knew how to play. And then when they did it, switch the name to Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, they sort of made the instructions easier to follow. And then plus, I think on that Vampire Day, we got like a little how to play guide
Yeah.
as part of our loot. And so
Yep.
then it was easier to play. But really, it's not a good game for two people. It's meant for more like three people or even five people,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of multiplayer dynamics. And it would be great to play with five people someday, but I doubt that'll ever happen.
Yeah. Yep.
But there were some cool cards. There was like the throw and manhole cover, and
Yep.
the things you'd use to fight with each other, like the fence gate.
Yep.
And there wasn't like Aaron's feeding razor. We always thought
Yep.
that was cool because you're Aaron,
Yep. Yep.
obviously.
I know. I always use that. I always made sure
Yep.
I had that in my deck.
Yeah, that's good old Aaron's feeding razor. And just the
Yep.
different vampire cards. Some of them looked really cool. Some of them were fun, but some of them were scary. No, just kidding. Some
Yeah.
of them looked really stupid, but some of them looked
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, because there's different like classes of vampires in that game. So
Yeah, there was different clans, and each clan
clans,
had
yep.
their own special powers. So there was the Nosferatu, which looked like Nosferatu from the movie, and they could like
Yeah.
control animals and had stealth. And then there was the Malkavians, which were the insane vampires, and they had a lot of like sensory detection powers and stuff. So
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, yeah, you, me, and Kurt played that a lot. I think we're the only three that played that, if I
Yeah, I
remember
think
right.
so.
And I
I do
remember,
remember it. Oh, I was gonna say I remember in college I tried to play someone like I met on the BBS or something was like, I want to play vampire, and I was like, okay, I will. And the guy was such a weirdo that it was such a like a awkward, weird experience that
oh,
I never played again. But
yeah. I remember, and then like granted that Vampire Night or whatever, didn't we get like those blood counters too? Is that where we got those? Or where did we get, or was that
that
Baker's?
was at Baker's, and was that
That's
part of their
right.
sale?
Think
Because
so, or
because
something.
there was a game store called Baker's, and what we got was it was like a little IV bag like you would get for a
Hmm.
blood transfusion, and then it was full of red and black glass bead counters that you
Yep.
could use for because you needed blood counters to play vampire, and
Yep.
so those were the perfect blood counters.
Yep.
And Baker's Craft and Hobby usually it was it like after Christmas they had
Yep.
like a table or a few big tables worth of stuff, and it was 90% or it was 10% off. But
Yep.
if you came back the next week and it was still there, it was 20% off. But if you came
Yep.
back the next week, it was still there, it was 30% off, all the
Yeah.
way down to 90% off. And it was so it was always fun to go there every week. And it was like almost like gambling because it'd be like, ooh, I
Yeah.
want that, but I don't want it enough to pay for it now. I'm gonna wait and hope it's still
Yep.
here next week. And then you'd come
Yep.
back the next week and it'd be gone, and you'd be like, son of a bitch.
Yep.
Or else it'd still be there, and you'd be like, oh, maybe one more week, maybe one more
Yep.
week I'll wait.
Yep. Next week it's 90%. Maybe I'll get it then. Yep.
And then when you get when you'd go on the week when it was 90%, it was just the absolute crap that you didn't even want to pay
Yeah.
like a nickel for. Like, no, you can't even give this stuff away.
Yep.
But I bought a
No,
lot of
we
weird random stuff because of that sale.
I know I did too. I got like a Tales from the Crypt role-playing game, which I sold years ago, but yeah, a lot of
Nice.
fun, a lot of weird stuff, like you said. I
Mm-hmm.
remember like with the Jihad.
Yeah.
We were in South Dakota and we were at in one of the store. We went to a mall. I was with my parents and it was on my birthday, the day of my birthday. And one of the stores, I don't know, I don't know if it was a gaming store. It must have been like a comic store, and they were selling a full box of Jihad for like dirt cheap. And mom's like,
Oh,
"Well,
nice.
I'll buy you a box for your birthday," and then like every hour on the way home because it was such a long trip,
Uh-huh.
back to Minnesota from South Dakota, she's like, "I'll give you a pack of cards." Every
Nice.
hour. So every hour I opened a pack and I ended up getting almost a full set. I think I was
Nice.
only missing like a couple cards from that original set, but
Yeah, I remember that.
you know,
That was awesome.
yeah, that was crazy. I think another game that I remember that we played a lot of and bought tons of cards was Marvel Overpower.
Yup. That was probably
It-
after Vampire probably was overpower, and we bought
it-
even more of that and played way more of that than that was probably like our
yeah,
next biggest one after Magic.
because it was an easy game to play. It was just a numbers game basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you had all the different superheroes, you had like Spider-Man and all the Marvel, like the Punisher and all these, and then you'd buy like starter kits and then you could get booster packs. But I remember it was so cheap. Like the booster
Yeah.
packs were only a couple dollars, so that's why we bought so much of it. But then I think there's only like two or three cards in the pack.
It was because it was so you get your superhero
Yeah,
cards and you'd play with four superheroes, and then they
yeah,
each had there was like a fighting stat and a strength stat and like an energy stat,
yeah,
and they each had a number, and then they could use cards up to the number of their stat. And
yeah.
then there was things like manhole cover. All these games have manhole covers, but
I
there's
know.
things like lamppost that would
That's
add
probably like
like,
them.
yep, exactly. You needed like an 8 strength to use, but if you had
Yeah.
had that, then you could add 3 to your strength
Yep.
for that attack or whatever. And then
Yep.
the characters had their different like powered cards. So like Wolverine would have healing factor, remove 2 damage from Wolverine, or some 2 damage
Yep.
cards from Wolverine. And like you said, it was really easy and really simple to play. But we'd buy but most of the cards were just numbers, like a
Yeah.
5 or a 6, and it would be a picture of a superhero, and then it would be like a 6 with a fist for 6
Yeah.
fighting, or a 5.
Like a playing it was like a playing card
Yeah.
kinda.
So
Yeah.
you'd buy a booster pack, and it was like a $2, but you'd get maybe like 4 or 5 numbers, and then like 2 or 3 actual cards. But it was always
Yep.
such a thrill, because you would get cards for superheroes you didn't have, and you'd be like,
Yeah.
man, that'd be so cool. Like you get a Carnage card, and you'd be like, man, I wish I had Carnage. And then you'd get Carnage in the pack, and you'd be like, oh
Yeah.
great, now I can use these cards. And
Yep.
then it was
Yeah.
always so exciting and thrilling to get a new superhero. Or
Oh
you'd get a
yeah.
superhero that you really wanted to use, but then you didn't have any cards for his powers. And so then it was like, well, this is great.
Yep. And then that was back before like eBay and all that, so you couldn't really go on and get them, so you had to keep buying packs.
Yeah.
And I remember Walmart always had tons of packs. That's where I got most of my cards was from Walmart.
That was another big factor with that, because like with Magic and Vampire, we had to drive pretty much to St. Cloud to a comic or game
Yeah.
store to get them. But Overpower was at Walmart in Little Falls, so
Yep.
we would make the closing time run. Like we'd be sitting in the basement looking at our
Yep.
Overpower cards, be like, man, I want more Overpower cards. Let's go to Walmart. Okay, what time
Yep.
do they close? 10 minutes. We can make it.
Yep. We did that
Remember the
several
one time
times.
Kurt bought a pack that it was like a factory defect or something, and there was like literally only one card in it.
I remember that. Yep. And then there was
Like,
I got screwed.
yep, exactly. Of course, it happened to Kurt of all people. If it was going to
Yep.
happen to anyone.
Yep. Yeah, that was fun. I liked Overpower. I think I still have those cards somewhere. I don't think I got rid of them.
Mm.
I don't
I
even know
know.
where the.
I know I had them for a long, long, long time, but I think I finally got rid of them a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, I don't even know where those would even be. But I don't think I got rid of those. Yeah.
Cool. Dig
Hmm.
around for them.
I know I'm gonna have to. I remember there was a promo card in Wizard magazine. It was like a Spider-Man. What was it, like birthday party or something? I can't remember. Or
it was
holiday. Or,
it was the because one of the covers, maybe it was even the very first issue of Wizard magazine, but they had Spider-Man, but he had a wizard robe and like a wizard hat.
yeah, that's what it was.
And so they made that into a card, and it was basically like, was it just like a wild card? Like it was like 8
So,
damage or something, or
yeah, I can't remember what it did, but
it was
yeah,
something. It was like a really powerful card. I remember that.
yeah, yeah. And I remember it
Yeah.
was in Wizard. I bought
Oh, it
Wizard.
was the
Expect
web-headed wizard. That's what it was
that's what
called.
it was. Yes, web-headed wizard.
Yeah.
Good memory. Holy
Thank
cow.
you. Yeah. Holy shit. Can't remember anything important, but I can pull web-headed wizard out of my ass.
Yeah,
Forget to buy groceries later, but
yeah,
at least I got the web-headed wizard. But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's a
used to
lot of
love
games.
Wizard Magazine. We could do a whole episode on Wizard Magazine. I used to
Yeah,
love that so much.
I know.
Anyway,
Exclusive figures.
yeah. Oh my god! And some of those very, very first exclusive figures were such crap. Too. Like I was so
Hmm.
excited to get them, but you could tell they were so cheap. Like I got that
Oh,
Molten Man, and it like literally fell apart. Like as I was.
yeah.
But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. I think
Yep.
one more game, probably the third and maybe final game, the third biggest one that we played often was the Decipher Star Wars card game, and
Oh
you had
yeah.
the light side and the dark side, and you would have to shoot. One player would play as the dark side and one player would play as the light side, and you would make your decks and you could get the characters out, and if you had to get like 4 ability, and then you could draw cards, and you could certain locations you could drain, and you use the deck as damage. So like if
Yep.
you did 5 damage to the person, they would take the top 5 cards of the deck and put them in their discard pile, which I
Yep.
thought that was a really cool way to keep. You
Yeah.
didn't need counters, you didn't need dice, you didn't need pen and paper. It just
Yep.
was all built in. And
Yep.
then sometimes you take like, oh, I can take 2 damage, and then you'd flip over Luke Skywalker or something. You'd be like, son of a bitch, because that
Yep.
was like that was a much more devastating loss than 2 damage should have been.
I know. Yep. That was a
So
fun game.
yeah, and then it was cool, but I think it also kind of hurt the game. But they like released the sets in the same order of the movies, so for a long
Mm,
time, the only cards you had were from the very first Star Wars movie.
yeah.
And then they made the Empire Strikes Back set. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but then you had to wait for. And then they made the Return of the Jedi set, and that's cool, but
Yeah.
then you had to wait forever. And didn't they like break up? Like there was a Hoth set, and then a
Yep.
Bespin set, and then like a
Yeah.
Dagobah set, and so it was like three
Yeah.
years before you finally got to Return of the Jedi, which is
I
what we all
know.
wanted.
Yep. That's what everybody was waiting for. But
Exactly.
yeah, we didn't play that too often. But I mean, we played it enough.
I think I played that with Scott P a lot more
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that was
There's
a fun game.
yeah, there's been a lot of card games though. Like some of the honorable mentions was Illuminati. Remember that?
Oh my god, I never did understand that game.
No.
I played games of it. Literally don't know what I did. It basically was like, what am I doing? Tell me what to do.
Yep. I know. Yep.
I think
We
you
all
need a
had
computer
cards
to
for
figure
that
that.
though.
Yeah, I kind of understood it, but at the same time, it was really confusing.
Yeah. I
I
just
didn't
saw on eBay that you can buy like a box set. And that just I don't know how long ago it came out, but you can buy like a whole like box set of all the cards.
really
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And then there was a Lord of the Rings game which
Yep.
I bought, never really played much. There was
Mm-mm. Doctor
um
Who.
Doctor Who. Yep, we
Yep.
played that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That didn't seem like the greatest game ever, but we
I
did
only
play
played
it.
that like a couple times. I had a bunch of cards, but yeah, I don't know.
It was fun buying the cards.
I know Kurt
And
really liked them.
yep. There was Netrunner. I bought a couple packs of
Oh,
that.
yeah.
There was Shadowrun. I bought a couple
Yeah.
packs of that.
There's a Mortal Kombat one. I wish I would have bought more of those, but I don't know. I think that was when I was kind of getting out of the card games.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I might have
But
got one. I think I got a starter of that, and it was literally
yeah.
at the Baker sale that we just talked about.
Yeah. I
With
think
like it was like
that's
75% off, 70% off
yeah.
or something.
Yeah. And then
Remember,
go ahead. You're
I
probably
was
thinking
just
the
gonna
same
say.
thing.
Oh, I was just gonna say. Remember when all the different card games were starting to come out, and there was Super Deck, and it was like just orange, like looked like it was made of construction paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, nope, I wasn't thinking that.
Okay.
What I was thinking is remember the card game? I think we bought I don't know how much of it we bought, but the good old Xenophile.
Oh, yeah. As soon as you were like, remember the card game? I know. I was like, oh, yep, I know. I found that at a comic book store in California when I was on vacation with my parents, and I had to do the super sneaky. Like I must have been 18 because I was able to
Yeah.
buy it, but I was with
Yeah.
my mom and dad and my brother, and so I had to like be like, "Oh wait, I decided I want to get something. I'm gonna go back real quick." Like
Yep.
try to buy it without everyone and my brother, knowing
Yep.
that I was buying.
Yep. Yeah, because I remember we got it at Granite, and
And
I
then we
don't know
got
how
it at
much of
Granite. Yeah.
we were in college though
Oh
when
no,
we
you know
got
what?
it.
Oh my god, it's a Roy Wilkins auditorium scenario. It wasn't
Uh-oh.
Xenophile that I bought in California. It was some comic books that were of similar nature. Anyway,
Okay.
we got Xenophile. Same story still applies, but
Did you buy them at Wilkins Auditorium?
yeah, I did. I bought them at the Roy Wilkins auditorium from Rob Zombie.
When he was there 2 times.
When he was there, those times, all those times. If you don't know what
Oh,
we're talking about, go back and listen to the back catalog of Minnesota Meatloaf podcast,
yes.
specifically the concert episode.
Yep. Oh man. And again, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay. There was Wyvern or Wyvern or
Yeah.
however the hell you say it, and some people were
Yeah.
super into that. And there was
Yeah.
what was that one? Doom Trooper. Remember that shit?
That I don't
That
remember.
that was like a sci-fi one. They
Okay.
used to like that at Classic Toys.
Oh,
Anyway, a lot of
yeah.
stupid.
Yep. They made a lot of good ones and a lot of dumb ones. And
Just like anything else in the world, someone makes something good and it makes money, and everyone else goes, "I can do that too."
yep.
Yeah,
And then they try to copy it and or make something similar and nope.
yeah. That's why we're on a podcast. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, well,
anywho,
yeah. Well, I think that concludes this episode. What do you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
Cards.
Yep.
Also, we got into the figures too of kind of related to the collectible card games, eventually turned into the collectible miniatures games of
Oh yeah.
Mage Knight and Hero Clicks. And I
Yep.
remember Terry, the manager of the movie theater, calling you every day and be like, "Did Matt get any more of those Mage Knight? Did Matt
Because
get any
yeah,
more
because they
Mage
had
Knight?"
Chase like dragon figures or
Yeah,
something. And
the
they're really
Dragonkin.
cool. And so
Yeah.
he was hoping you would buy them and get the Chase and then sell them to him. I remember he got the whole set and then he sold them like right away on eBay.
Nice.
Yeah.
After all that work.
Yep. So, yep.
All right.
All right.
Well, thanks for listening to another episode.
Yeah, thanks. And be sure to like, subscribe, and send us any questions or requests for shows.
Yep. And like, share, subscribe, comment. We love to hear from you.
Yep. Thank you.